Hi everyone, welcome to platform number 10 of the Hidden London Hangouts. My name's Alex Grundon. It's a delight to be back with you with another hangout full of delights and joys. And my goodness, we have an onion skin of a station to have a look round today. It's a bit of a rush job today. Everyone's a little bit sweaty, but we're all doing pretty well. I don't do this on my own. I've got a team of 3 amazing historians and beautiful people to do this with me. First up is Chris Nix from the London Transport Museum. Are you sweating in that shed, Chris?
No, the sun's just coming out though, so it's not long. Good to be back down underground though after last week.
Yeah, I agree. And this is one heck of a station. It's going to be amazing. Sidney Holloway from the Transport Museum is with us too. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, baby. This is looking pretty good.
It's been such a gorgeous weather in the UK over the last few weeks that I just feel like this is, there you go, just put it all on.
I'm really, really glad because I think you and I have clearly been spending a bit of our free time in the sunshine. That's all I'm going to say. It's really bizarre. Middle of COVID, we're all wearing masks. I'm half expecting suntans to have this kind of big white patch across faces.
Can we get memos on this kind of stuff? I totally missed that one.
Don't worry, it's absolutely fine. It's what we're just playing with each other now. We're just playing with each other. And Laura Hilton-Brown, how's your tan coming on in this mad COVID-19 moment?
Hello, Alex. Hi, everyone. Do you know, not bad, actually. It has been lovely weather, so I've been enjoying it.
Brilliant stuff. Well, cracking on, we've got a really cool station to look at today. We're in Moorgate. So many people have travelled through it. It's an amazing station. It's layered. It's a bit like a multi-storey car park of tube stations, really. And it's obviously got your British Rail as it was. You've got all sorts of tube stuff. So we're going to dissect that today. And we're going to start off with a little bit of an overview of what this is all about. And Laura, we always do this with you. This is a bit like a multi-storey car park of railway stations, isn't it?
I love that you've just compared it to a multi-storey car park, but Moorgate is, yeah, there's many layers, many levels to this site. This is the newest site to our Hidden London Tour programme, but we've been there before in terms of putting events on. TfL and LTM worked really closely together for the 150th birthday of London Underground, and we did Tube 150. Where steam was back on the underground, so that was fantastic. But back to the Hidden London tour, it's called the Metropolitan Maze, and if ever there was a title that reflected the tour, for me, this is the one. One of London's earliest underground stations, now a busy, bustling, interchange. What a gem of a station! Visually rich, strong thematic links. We've got renovation. We've got construction, expansion, we've got rebuild, and we've got adaptation as well. It's, it's all in there. Many levels in terms of both the content and the route. The route takes a few twists and turns because we couldn't quite get it in a lovely loop, but we wanted to make sure that the audience got to see everything because, oh my goodness, Alex, this is gonna knock your socks off. Visually, we've got glass tiles. I know. We've got posters, we've got a spiral staircase, one of my favourites. There's lift shafts, and in situ, nearly said that wrong, in situ, a huge fan.
Oh yes, Chris is going to get his torpedo out, isn't he?
Right, okay, and a grey head shield. I mean, come on, what more could you pack in there? Oh, hang on, I nearly forgot a major bit, because we get to peek into the catacomb section down towards the Barbican. I mean, I just can't. It's so exciting. There's just treat after treat after treat. And visually, when we first did the site visit, I was blown away. So I hope we can make the audience today kind of feel some of that excitement.
I'm sure we can. Chris, and your torpedo. First of all, I've got my bowler hat on. It's 1865 and I'm in Moorgate Street. What happens?
So, 1865, the Metropolitan line decides to extend its only 2-year-old world first underground railway out to the city to pick up some of the lucrative commuter traffic. And not to be outdone, the City and South London Railway also makes its first extension and also goes to Moorgate in 1900. And the the building outside is definitely worth a quick look. It's by an architect with a fabulous name of Thomas Phillips Figgis. That's a really good one, isn't it? It almost feels kind of Carry On. I'm going to put my Sid James hat on for that one.
Sid James has just arrived.
So, and then it carries on. In 1904, the Great Northern City Railway joins the party. And in 1912, the station starts to be brought together by a subway being created between Great Northern City and the City and South London Railway. And of course, we know what that means when stations start being banded together and subways start being modified. It means that bits get left behind, and that's when the Hidden London fans start to go, ooh, there's got to be some hidden gems left there behind the closed doors. And in 1936, that passageway was again modified and extended to handle greater traffic. So, I mean, really, you could just see the story as that. It's a set of 3 lines coming together, gradually being connected up from the individual stations into an interchange. We could probably add a few things on, though. In wartime, of course, disused passageways, they get reused for a bit of staff shelter accommodation. And Moorgate did get extensively bombed in the Second World War as well, so it had to be remodelled and repaired after war. And then if we come right up to date, of course, Crossrail, Elizabeth Line, is busily connecting onto it right now, and it is effectively joining it up with Liverpool Street Station. So there you are, there's a quick canter through its development.
Fabulous stuff. So we've got the Metropolitan line arrives first, then what's now the Northern Line Bank branch arrives second, and then just downstairs, they created what eventually was the Northern City Line, which is now part of the Thameslink Railway that runs into Moorgate. So there we go, that's what we've got so far. City, show me some gorgeous photographs in your city slideshow.
Right, so here we are. This is Moorgate Station in 1865. It's a drawing because, of course, in 1865, it was before you could take photographs of things. So this is depicting a workman's train coming into Moorgate Station. And just in the background, you can see that it's got kind of a roof made out of kind of iron and glass. And that's how the station was originally built. And that's where the steam trains kind of came in. Now, when I say workman trains, I just mean a really early train, which was something that the Underground did. And they basically put the prices way down so people could travel early on in the morning, and normally they were workmen traveling to work but that changed in around 1900, and that is Moorgate looking from sort of down the platforms as we know them today. Those who know Moorgate will realize that it's of course all covered today, and we'll get on to why that is later on, but they used to just be these kind of island platforms and completely open to the elements. So you just see that there. That's the eastbound Metropolitan Line platform, which is all completely covered when you go to the station today. Quite interesting, right?
It's lovely, isn't it? It's how different it looked then to now.
Completely. And just like the, you know, I don't know, Moorgate to me, because of the way it was constructed or reconstructed in the 60s, and it's got basically the entire Barbican estate on top of it, always feels kind of a little bit low to the ground.
Yeah.
It's kind of dim and kind of a little bit sort of ominous in a sense, but it's really interesting to see that that's what it used to look like. Now, Chris said before that the CSLR, or the City and South London Railway, the bank branch of the Northern Line, arrived at Moorgate in 1900 on its first extension, and it built its own station separate from the Metropolitan one on the corner of Moorgate, and I think it is another street, I can't remember. And that building was acted as both the station building for the line, but also as the headquarters of the CSLR at the time. And the building, as Chris said was designed by Thomas Philip Figgis.
By the way, I meant to say to you, by the way, there's a really, really lovely tobacconists just around the corner from there. It's if you ever want to go there, if you want to get like a nice cigar for like a present or anything like that, it's just around the corner in another street. in
one of the
WC1.
streets.
Yeah, just in another street. Yeah.
Well, what I was just about to show you there is that that shot is from around 1920, and then if we do that, you just see that it still survives.
Oh, phew.
So, Sydney, that's the corner of Moorfield and Moor Place.
Moor Place, there we go. I knew that. I was just seeing if you did. It was a test and you passed. Anyway, so what was really beautiful, what survives quite nicely on the outside, is this Portland stone that they clad the building with, but also you see those carvings above, which got kind of wings and sort of lightning bolts coming down from it. That was sort of an emblem of the City and South London Railway, kind of, you know, depicting the electricity on which their locomotives moved. So quite nice. Now, that is the old lift shaft of the CSLR part of Moorgate Station, now used for, I mean, I think mostly cabling and things like that. It's a
very deep shaft, isn't it?
Yeah, it is pretty deep. I mean, it would be probably about 30 meters or so. So yeah, it's definitely a deep one for sure. Now, you love some tiles.
Oh, look at that. Gorgeous.
It's quite exciting. So it's a few things to depict there.
Rubbing my legs as I just watched that. That's amazing.
First of all, original glass tiles. You know how we've talked about glass tiles being really, really unique. We talked about that at Euston when we found that beautiful glass tile and we got it conserved, which is now part of our collection. That's you also get these glass tiles at Moorgate, and it's a part of what the CSLR used as an extension kind of material. So all of their extension stations up from King William Street were tiled with glass tiles to kind of bring that luminosity to those stations and kind of make, you know, most use of all the light that they could get down there. So you can see it just says way out to is what we can surmise from that. So that's original to the station. The no smoking poster is actually from the Second World War, we believe.
Wow.
And the drawing beneath that, we're going to surmise is from some other time.
Yeah. More recently.
Yeah.
Isn't it helpful though that somebody's put the pictogram there for
at least
those
you
who
know
can't
what
read?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't ever bring a smoking shard of glass into this area.
Exactly. There you go. And there you can see just how they stick those glass tiles to the walls. And it's incredible craftsmanship. They tiled completely around the tunnel, so into the ceiling as well, which is something we don't do nowadays because of the risk of any of the tiles falling down or anything like that. But back in those days, they did. And Chris always has a very good explanation about how this is done. Would you like to explain?
Sure. So with the ceramic tiles, they have a cast keystone in the back of them. That means that when you put them into the wet cement, the cement kind of hooks into the back of the tile. With a glass tile, you can't easily do that, and they're very, very thin. They're only about 2 millimeters, if that, thick. So what they do is they put a type of bitumen, a tar, on the back of them, and then while that's setting, they dash some sand into it, which is called blinding. And when that's set and you push the back of the tile into cement, that acts as a keystone on a very, very micro level. And it's the sand binding into the wet cement, stuck in turn to the bitumen, stuck in turn to the back of the tile, which holds it on the wall. And it's very, very effective because the city said they're tiled right around the ceiling and most of them stay there.
Can you come and do my bathroom?
I can explain it. I can't necessarily do it, Alex.
Good.
I don't know. I feel like you could.
I know that feeling well.
Moving on, just to show some steps. So these are steps leading up to the old spiral staircase that was the emergency staircase for the City and South London Railway. The reason I've included this is not because of the kind of the damp that you can see in that white kind of effervescent stuff there, but it's more to do with look at those those steps have an early way of anti-slip mechanism. Those are like tiny little blocks of wood put together, and that would stop people from slipping on the steps, which is quite sweet, I think.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. And I just put this one in for you, Alex, because I thought you'd like that.
Yeah, I do love my tiles. Oh, look what they said there. How great.
But it's no ifs or buts.
I love that.
No ifs, no buts, no education cuts. And there you go.
Do you know, it's funny, is it when I see a wall like that, I always just rejoice in the tiling. And then I look a little closer when I see the graffiti. I've got such optimistic views on life, haven't I, really?
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, this is very old. I mean, these tunnels have been closed since 1924, and most of that graffiti would have been done by, someone working there probably 20, 30 years ago. It's something that really doesn't take place on the underground anymore. But we're reticent to kind of try and clean it off because we don't want to damage the tiles or any of the heritage features. So it's sort of a double-edged sword. Now, then we talked a little bit about the city, the Northern City line. So this is that connecting passageway that Chris was talking about earlier, that connected the City and South London Railway, the Northern City line and the Metropolitan line. So that passageway did basically the link between all three. So you didn't have to actually, ascend to the surface, cross the street, and then descend back into the various station that you needed to use.
Wow. And
you just see on the right-hand side there is a glimmer of a poster.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
And that's an old Lifebuoy poster from 1934.
Soap. Oh, heavens, soap. I love it.
It's
what
great,
a grimy
isn't it?
hovel, though.
And well, yeah, it's been left for quite some time.
Could do with a bit of Lifebuoy on those walls.
It's got to be said, Alex, if ever you want to see how advertising's moved on, treat yourself and Google some of the images of Lifebuoy soap posters. When Cindy and I found that, we did that when we got back to the office, and they're not subtle.
Yeah.
It's basically, the message is, you stink, you need some soap. That's why you haven't got a job or got a significant other, something like that. It's
To be fair,
it's
that's what we do as we're walking down the road, isn't it? So, they're only just doing what we're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Well, next one, some damage during the Second World War. So Chris was talking about this earlier. You can see it's damaged, a queue stock there to the side. That is a queue stock, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Like it, yep.
And looks so battered. It's tricky to see. And yeah, it got hit very, very badly. Moorgate was in fact subject to big fires as well at the end of 1940, which is called the Second Great Fire of London, and in fact covered a greater area of fire in the City of London than did the original one in 1666. So it had to be completely rebuilt. And just to sort of show you how devastating that was, it gives a good image. That is a City and South London locomotive, which was, sort of left on display at the station, and later on had to be scrapped due to the damage it sustained during the war.
Wow.
But really, what they then did is that they left the area completely cleared for several years, until in the 60s when they decided to build the Barbican. So you see to the right-hand side there are the old tracks, basically the ones leading from Moorgate down to the Barbican and to Farringdon. And to the left, you can see they're just building these kind of umbrella canopies, or these kind of, basically these umbrella decks over what would become the new straightened Metropolitan line tracks, essentially. And so on top of that is the entire building of the Barbican Centre and the Barbican Estate, essentially. So that is what the catacombs essentially are today.
The foundations for the blocks of flats above?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And they're quite intricate as well, and it's a long old way of just kind of covered way the entire time. So it's really quite interesting going there and seeing it in the flesh, and kind of seeing how they constructed that.
It's probably worth just pointing out as well, the reason that it wasn't originally built like that is we have to remind ourselves that those subsurface railways were powered by steam trains. So covering them in wasn't a good idea when they were originally built. Once the lines were electrified, then that enabled the covering of a vast amount of the subsurface lines in cuttings and being able to build over the top of them and unlock the land use.
Mm.
There we are. That's the first slideshow, guys.
Beautiful stuff. Two things that I noticed in that. First of all, Chris, I want to just touch on the war, World War II, because obviously Moorgate was used in the war. And then I want to talk about something which is very specific to Moorgate. But let's talk about the war first. What happened during World War II down in Moorgate? Was it simply an air raid shelter for the punters?
Yeah, so the passageways off the City and South London railway stairs and beneath the ticket hall were adapted as staff accommodation. Don't know the specifics of what it's used for, but quite a lot of those little back office areas were used for staff protected accommodation. They were below ground and therefore lightly defended, and they bear the usual hallmarks that we're used to finding in those places. They've been repainted in kind of cream colour paint. They've got a little bit of signage that is wartime specific, and I believe it's even got the remains of a telephone, just a small communications telephone at the top of the stairs. So not much to see, but they were used, and we have a couple of diagrams in the collection that refer to that as well.
Fantastic. And there's loads and loads of pictures online, or if you're interested in this kind of stuff, just Google it. Speaking of being online, don't forget to follow us on YouTube and subscribe, and then comment below. Make sure that you put all of your questions about anything to do with the London Underground below, because we will get an answer for you and tell you in subsequent episodes of the Hidden London Hangout. You can also follow us on Instagram as well. I'm Alex Grunden, Chris Nix, and City Holloway, and at LT Museum are the handles to follow. So make sure you follow us there. We do stick a few tidbits of fabulousness up on each of our channels as well. And if you've got anything else, just get in touch, DM us, and we'll try and get some answers to you. Chris, I purposely broke that up just because the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is something that we actually actively chose not to put in pictures on this Hidden London Hangout. And it was the truly tragic crash at Moorgate in 1975. And this was the 28th of February. And this was in the time when Northern Line trains ran from Drayton Park to Moorgate every day, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. And on just after 8:30 in the morning, on the 28th of February in 75, a truly horrific crash happened at that station, didn't it?
It did. A train ran in. The platform is what's known as a terminal or terminus platform, in that the tunnel doesn't go very far beyond the platform. It doesn't carry on to anywhere else. So the trains need to stop, and this one didn't. It ran at high speed into the end of the tunnel with driver still at the controls and passengers aboard. There was, of course, an inquiry because there was a big loss of life and a lot of catastrophic injuries and a hugely difficult clearance and recovery program. But it's still not certain today exactly what happened. One of the worst tragedies to befall the Underground. It did learn a great deal and very quickly from that. The protection system that we've touched on previous week, using the tripcocks to stop the trains at red signals, weren't fitted at the time to terminal stations because, well, there's no need, surely there isn't a signal to obey. But because a seemingly conscious driver did apparently run at full speed into the end of the tunnel, those protection systems are a much more complex protection system. It detects a train coming in at speed and automatically puts its brakes on if it's showing no signs of stopping. Was fitted to all terminal stations on the Underground. So it's an accident that hopefully can never be repeated now because of that protection. But really an absolutely awful thing. and a tragedy for all those involved.
It's interesting as well, isn't it, how Moorgate in 1975 and King's Cross, the fire in 1987, had such phenomenal effect on safety and what came after it for the London Underground, and just truly horrific things. As I say, we've actively chosen not to show you anything about that particular crash. There's plenty online if you're interested to know, but it's not the place to show you here. Chris, I think it's probably a good idea, don't you, to raise the mood a little with another City's Secret slideshow. That's a whopper.
So, second slideshow. This is the Great Head Shield of the Great Northern and City line in situ in 1904. So that line has always been a bit of a mystery, and it's got a very sort of convoluted background. Basically, it was essentially the Great Northern Railway wanted to get trains into Moorgate without having to pay the Metropolitan Railway for the use of some of their track, which is what they were doing up until the 1900s. And so it was sort of a way to like skim on that money. But then later on, when they started building this tube railway, which was the Northern City line, they kind of withdrew financial support. So in the end, you just ended up with this branch line going from Moorgate to Finsbury Park with kind of nowhere to go. And it was always a bit awkward, essentially. Now, in order to try and make a little bit more money, they got permission to extend the line down to Lothbury, which is closer to the Bank of England, and therefore would have been slightly more kind of financial kind of district, you know, closer to it, essentially. But they ran out of money. So what happened is that instead of dismantling the Great Head Shield and taking it all out and filling the rest with concrete, they just filled basically what was inside the shield with concrete and left it in situ.
Wow, just look at that. That's your shield, Chris.
Yeah, so this we were really keen to be able to get onto a tour because you can't see a Great Head Shield in the ground in very many places, and this is the only one of our public tours that you can see one on. The shield is named after the engineer who perfected it, James Greathead, and that is a fine bit of his work left for you to admire.
Mm-hmm. It's really, I mean, its size is remarkable, and you sort of can't really tell from this photo. You kind of have to just go and stand by it. But you know, this is a 16'6" tunnel, so it's big. It's a full-size railway tunnel. So standing next to that really kind of brings it to light how the underground was built, and you know what most of what we travel through was just built by men in each one of those compartments with picks and shovels, you know, hacking at the ground and taking the spoil out and pushing the shield further, you know, forward and forward. So it's a really nice kind of remnant, or really a relic of the past in that way.
Size is often best seen up close and personal, isn't it?
I would say so, yeah. So here you can see just parts of the platform looking back down from the Great Head Shield, and as you can see, it is quite far back because they did start that extension from to Lothbury. So it is, you know, it's set back quite a while, so it's not, you know, it's not easily seen from the platforms, essentially. Now, another thing that's quite nice is just on the other side of that is just a view glimpsing into the old lift shaft of the Great Northern City line, which has now been converted into a substation for National Rail that goes there. It's just something. Yeah, we just spotted this one day when we were down there taking some photographs. So that door is normally not open. So somebody was just in there working that day when we went down. So I just think it looks great. That symmetry of it is just.
I love your job. This is great. Most of us are doing like really boring stuff every day. There's you. Oh, do you know, I might pop to a tube station, take a few snaps. How cool.
I know. I mean, it's not too bad. You do get very dirty.
Yeah.
So we talked, that's a better shot of the Lifebuoy, the Lifebuoy ad, the poster that we have down there. You can just see that red bit, you know, right at the bottom. And as we learned from David doing the Euston episode, they could really use those like popping red colours on the underground because it worked so much better in the gloominess of the tunnels. So that's quite nice to see that in situ at another place. This here is...
Ooh, lovely.
Nice, isn't it?
We thought you'd like that one, Alex.
Yeah, I love that. That's like look at that. It's like a pair of blancmanges.
So yeah, you've got a staircase coming on a kind of a curve from either direction, joining onto the one that you've got. So you get this vaulted appearance.
Yeah.
If you compare it in contrast to the ones we were looking at just last week at Piccadilly Circus, even though it's just white tiles, it's the form that makes it kind of beautiful and interesting, isn't it?
Did you tile that, Chris?
Yeah, that's definitely one of mine. You can admire the sharpness of the mitering going on there.
All right. Now here.
Oh, look at that! That's a big one.
My biggest fan is what that is.
Hey.
And there are
Actually,
lots.
I stole that from one of our guides, Paul Valentine. You get a shout out now.
Hi,
you
Paul.
came up with that joke. You definitely came up with that joke. No, so this is the first. When Chris and I went on our first ever site visit to Moorgate to see if there was a tour there, we came around the corner to this fan, and this fan is so big, it really startled both of us. And just for sort of size comparison, here's me standing next to it, looking rather timid, like it's the first day of school.
I feel like when we discovered that city, I think I was slightly ahead of you in that passageway and went round the corner to encounter that one first. And I remember sort of turning and gingerly going back to you to warn you what you were about to see, because it put the frighteners on me with the fan blades gently spinning. Yeah, that was quite a moment, that one.
I think we both sort of kind of went, and like, is it on? Is it gonna go on? And,
is this thing on? I
Is it
love
on?
it. So that is in a lift. So that's basically heading down towards a lift passageway, and they've just put a fan in it, have they, to vent?
It's a subway that was built. That, you know, that subway which has the Lifebuoy advert in it. It's that subway. It's just it's the Metropolitan end, and what it's doing is it's basically extracting air from the Northern Line below via a lift shaft. And I have also got a photo of the 150 that you planned quite a bit of the Tube 150, didn't you, Laura?
I did, yeah. So, I mean, I was just thinking I'm lucky enough to have worked with Hidden London from the beginning, but prior to that, I was a programme manager for the museum. So I worked a lot on the Tube 150 project. So that's a nice photo to see, actually. It takes me back.
Yeah. What did you guys, because it was before I joined the museum, so you ran a steam train, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the steam train ran on the...
Steam on the Met, wasn't it?
On the Met line, yeah.
I remember that.
A lot of themed kind of actors along the platform, welcoming people along, and we had a lovely brass band, and we had refreshments, and we had lovely projections all along the tunnel wall, which phenomenal. It was such a brilliant event.
Right, so we talked about Moorgate connecting with Liverpool Street in via Crossrail coming and connecting the two stations. Well, Chris and I were lucky enough to go and visit the building site of the Moorgate Liverpool Street station back in 2017, I think, quite a while ago now. So it still looked quite raw. It was definitely not a finished product when we came and visited, but it was just unbelievable. So that is the passageway that connects the two stations, I believe.
Isn't it funny, though, if you look at that, it really is so similar to a tunnel you built 100 years ago. Isn't it amazing that the essentials of the London Underground haven't massively changed in 100 years? We're still building round tunnels, and they're exceptionally long and dramatic and fabulous. And it doesn't matter whether it was 1900 or 2000, there's something fabulously full circle about the Tube.
You're absolutely right. I mean, we were talking earlier about James Greathead, who perfected the shield tunnelling method. There's a reason that we remember him. It's because the way that we tunnel hasn't changed since. So you're absolutely right. It's exactly the same in principle today as it was back then.
Now, that was them building the escalator shaft. So you see that incline that is coming. They're actually starting to build and put the escalators in place there. And I mean, it's an enormous station. It's going to be so impressive when it opens. I was just cavernous, and that is one of the few ones on the Crossrail route that is actually mined. So all of the cross passages, everything was dug out, just like, you know, the old tube was, instead of it being like a concrete box that you build everything from. So it was really impressive seeing how they did that. And they did most of it through a shaft in the middle of Finsbury Circus, which is just around the corner from Moorgate Station. Is it Finsbury Circus, or the bowling green?
There's Finsbury Square, and there's Finsbury Circus. It's in one of those. God, my. Is it round another street? Is it just around the corner from another street? Where the tobacconist
City of London somewhere. Exactly.
By the way, just to let you know, if you want to buy City's A to Z map of London, they are available in the Transport Museum shop. There's a lot of another street over there. There's a lot of those kind of roads, you know.
There's a lot of streets under the letter S, I think, which is just somewhere. City Street.
Some street, yep. There you can
Lisa
see
Goddard Avenue.
And there you can see Chris rocking the Crossrail high vis this time and walking down that tunnel.
He's got to get a bit of dressing up into every episode, hasn't he?
And there you go.
I love it. Thank you so much. So, effectively, that station, Metropolitan Line first, City and South London Railway, Bank Branch, the Northern Line came second, and then right downstairs, Finsbury Park to Moorgate, became Drayton Park to Moorgate, it's now part of Thameslink. That station, and then Crossrail's going to come soon. It's an amazing station. The big fan, the tunnels, Lifebuoy soap, it's all there. Chris, City, Laura, thank you.
Thank you.
We have very few notes and queries because next week we're going to do something a little special to end the first series of our Hidden London Hangouts for a lot of reasons. I don't know about you, but I really need a haircut. We are going to do something a little special, and I don't think even we know about the surprises for this week's episode. So hold fire on all that. We've got all of your questions to answer next week, and we'll get through all of those. We'll also give you the answer and the winner to the moquette competition that we launched a few weeks ago as well. And Chris, we did have a question from Stig Roo, who said on that episode, and please go and look at the previous episodes of the Hidden London Hangouts. Honestly, they're so much fun and we love doing them. But Stig said, a moquettopedia. How long did it take you to make that, and how can you make it?
Oh, so long, I don't want to think about it. It took quite a long time to buy all of the individual fabrics when they came up as scraps at our depot open weekend. Took even longer then to pattern match into a sort of consistent size, then to trim them, to overlock them, to bind them. Yeah, it was a project that I was glad to finish. However, there are still some samples that I've yet to acquire, so still a way to go.
He is so cute, as are our girls. Honestly, the three of you are just divine. Laura Hilton Brown, thank you so much for being part of it today.
Absolute pleasure. It's been fun. Thanks for having me.
Loads and loads of fun. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Siddy Holloway, thank you so much to you, beautiful, as well. And thanks for the pictures.
Thank you. I will be somewhere tonight. I'm not sure where.
And Chris Nix, thank you for your moquettopedia. Thank you for your large torpedo fan.
Thank you.
Looking forward to next week. It can only be embarrassing for all of us if there are any outtakes. Okay, I thought Chris was going to say something. Lost for words. Quite clearly lost for words.
Good to leave it there.
Right, so we're back for the final time of this series next week. So have yourself a great day and stay safe.